host of new developments in the story out of West Texas as 2,800 people attempt to pick up the pieces after one of the worst industrial accidents in recent memory. Here's what we now know about the explosion at the West Fertilizer Company last Wednesday. The ATF announced today the blast left a massive crater 93 feet wide and 10 feet deep. To give you a better sense of the amount of destruction, here's a satellite picture of the plant and its surroundings before the explosion, and here's the same area after the explosion, a veritable war zone. The destruction from the blast spread over 37 square block area of West Texas, which is equivalent to wiping out about a quarter of New York's Central Park. According to the Waco Tribune, the explosion killed 15 people, including 10 firefighters, most of whom were volunteer firefighters, and 2 emergency responders. 3 others who died are believed to be people who live nearby. 6 days after the blast, we have the names of those who were killed. 41-year-old Morris Bridges, 37-year-old Perry Calvin, 26-year-old Jerry Chapman, 50-year-old Cody Dragoo, 52-year-old Kenneth Harris, 52-year-old Jimmy Mattis, 65-year-old Judith Monroe, 29-year-old Joey Putiowski, 29-year-old Cyrus Reed, 57-year-old Mariano Saldivar, 33-year-old Kevin Sanders, 48-year-old Robert Stukos, and his 50-year-old brother Doug, 45-year-old Buck Upmore, and 96-year-old Adolph Lander. The explosion caused varying degrees of damage to 350 homes. Those living close to the plant are not being allowed back into their homes. However, some of the families living farther away are venturing back to assess the damage and to gather more of their belongings. They don't know when they'll be able to return for good. That's because many homes are still without gas and power, and parts of the city's water infrastructure were ripped apart.
The water situation. If you live on the south side of town, the water, you have water. You can wash your clothes, wash your hands, shower. Just do not consume the water.
Assistant State Fire Marshal Kelly Kistner is leading the investigation into the cause of the fire that triggered the explosion. There are a number of other state and federal agencies at the explosion site, including the EPA and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. Last week, we told you the last time OSHA regulators performed a full safety inspection at the West Fertilizer Company was nearly 28 years ago. And last night, we told you the plant had more than 1,300 times the legally allowed amount of the highly explosive ammonium nitrate, but hadn't told the Department of Homeland Security of the danger. This week, the Dallas Morning News, in an article with the headline, "West Fertilizer Company's Environmental Compliance Problems Go Back Decades," is reporting that in 1984, the company moved 2 large pressurized tanks of liquid anhydrous ammonia, a potentially lethal poison, from a site in nearby Hill County to its current location in West without notifying state authorities. And it was 7 years later before Texas regulators even took notice. In an interview with the Associated Press yesterday, Governor Rick Perry dismissed the notion that the West Texas explosion could have been prevented if inspectors and regulators had done their jobs better, saying, quote, "People through their elected officials clearly send the message of their comfort with the amount of oversight." Today, we learned of the first 2 of what is expected to be many lawsuits pertaining to the West Texas explosion. The first suit was filed on behalf of 4 insurance carriers who are insuring 17 West business and property owners who sustained damage in the explosion. The second lawsuit comes from Andrea Gutierrez, who is the first West resident to file a civil lawsuit against Adair Grain, the owners of the West Fertilizer Company. As reported on our website, her lawyer, Randy Roberts, told us that they decided to go ahead and file the suit because it has been almost a week since the explosion and the company has yet to acknowledge any responsibility. Joining me from West Texas is Crystal Anthony. She lives in West as an elected official on the West School Board. Her home was in the blast zone. Joining me at the table, Erica Greeter, senior editor for Texas Monthly Magazine and author of Big, Hot, Cheap, and Right. New book out you should check out. And Chris Kirkham, reporter from the Huffington Post, who just got back from West Texas. I want to begin with you, Crystal. Can you tell me what happened on the night of the explosion?
Well, actually, my daughter was outside playing basketball and she seen smoke and she ran in the house. And she said, "Mom, something's on fire." So we ran out and I thought it was the school that was on fire. And I just jumped in my vehicle and drove up close as I could get, which was near the apartment complex and the nursing home. And we were standing and we got out and I seen where the fire was and we took a picture and was just standing there, and we were still trying to get a hold of some of our school officials because we thought it was the school instead of the plant.
Now, did you know about...
And then
Please, continue, sorry.
And then after that, we may have been there maybe 5 minutes and the explosion happened. and it blew us back, and all I could do was just try to cover my daughter and make sure all of the debris and everything wasn't hitting her. And after that, we just went into search and rescue and helping the people get out of the nursing home and the apartment complex until help could get there.
So you were there pulling people, helping people get out of the nursing home that was just adjacent to the plant?
Yes, sir. Well, it wasn't adjacent, it was across the street. We were about 100 feet away from the explosion.
Did you know that the plant was there, and did you have a sense that the plant had anything dangerous within it?
I mean, the plant has been there for as long as before I was born, so we never really felt like it was anything of danger or anything, because we used to run around through that area for track practice sometimes just to get up our endurance and everything. We never felt like it was danger or anything.
Can you tell me what the mood is there in the aftermath of something this awful and this destructive? My sense is you've not been back in your home. People are trying to pick up the pieces. What is the overwhelming feeling there about the aftermath of this? And are people angry? Are they just grieving? How are people feeling?
It's kind of all over the place. Even for myself, this morning it was very hard for me. I woke up in tears. But you pick up the pieces and you try to be strong for your children, you try to be strong for your community and just your neighbor next to you. You know, all we do ask is, like the utility companies, bear with us and help us. I mean, Verizon Wireless really didn't help me any, but we have some companies, if they could just, you know, bear with us and understand that, hey, we're going through this tragedy, just give us a little comfort until we can make it all right. Because we are a strong community. And go ahead.
I wanted Chris Kirkham here was just down in West, and you talked to a bunch of people in the aftermath there. What are you seeing in terms of the search and rescue, the investigation that's happening there? It seems like the blast happened, and then there was kind of silence in the aftermath. We didn't even have the names of the dead. Has progress been made in figuring out what happened, what went wrong, and how these folks are going to get restitution and get back on their feet?
I mean, I think it's still a pretty slow. I think it's still a fairly slow process on that. I mean, as far as the actual investigation, I mean, most of the blast site is completely closed off to all members of the public, you know, the media, residents. So you're not really able to get back there to see kind of those images that you really saw in the beginning. You know, one of the things that really struck me in West, you know, and it was very similar to what Crystal was saying, was that, you know, I sort of expected a little more of a sense of anger from people in town, maybe directed at the owners of the plant, but I didn't get that from anyone I talked to. Everyone was very, you know, very sad, obviously, but they really sort of felt bad for the owners and felt that there was no way that they wanted this to happen. And you know, this was very much a community fixture in a lot of ways. This fertilizer plant.
Crystal, you're shaking your head. You're nodding your head in agreement.
That is so true. You know, my heart goes out to the owners of the plant. We went to school with their children, and I know they're hurting just like we're hurting, and I just feel for them and our community. We're just going to pick up the pieces and make it stronger as the best we can.
Crystal Anthony, thank you so much for joining me tonight, and good luck in getting back on your feet. I really, really appreciate it. We'll be right back.